Friday at his news conference announcing the suspensions of Michael Hoyt and Larry O. recent Bills signings, as in last week. Nobody knew it. Beane was well into his press conference before kind of like, oh, by the way, both these guys are going to miss 6 games, and he detailed how it went. Basically said that he wouldn't have signed Ogunjobi if he knew, or at least wouldn't have signed one of them had he known that they both had 6-game suspensions waiting. And he knew on Hoyt and not on Ogunjobi.
Which leads you to believe that Ogunjobi is the one that they wouldn't have done, right? I mean, I would imagine even signing one guy, there's some debate about it, whether, it's a third of the season, but you're signing him to a 3-year deal, so you're hoping for a lot of football there. But still, just the optics of it alone, let alone, just not having him for a third of the season, could make you hesitate about it and debate about it. I would bet everyone didn't agree, hey, this is a perfect idea, let's do it. But they did decide to do it. Then when a second guy comes in, that's where it just sounds, what are you doing over there? Why did you sign 2 guys that, end up in this same bucket here? It's a very, very tough look, I think. And again, I would bet he sounds so calm, cool, collected there and understanding. Man, I'll bet the news of the second one did not land well, because it makes the first decision to sign Hoyt in the first place, knowing it, just look that much more dubious, just by virtue of now I've got 2 guys. If I have the one, okay, we'll just put that over there. It's a special case. We really like this player. I think he's going to really help us a lot. Oh, second guy, what? Now come on. So, just tough. I mean, I'm not here to say they should have walked away from both guys, either guy, really. It sounds like they wanted to walk. If there were a better option out there, they would have walked away from Ogunjobi, is what it sounds like to me. That's their right if they had decided to do that, but they couldn't find a better alternative, so here we are.
Yeah. At the risk of sounding like an apologist for him, which I do not think I am, I'm okay. That makes sense, all that. I accept it. I even accept how Beane described Ogunjobi and even what Ogunjobi said about the situation. I can live with it. And part of that is because this season really doesn't get real until well after 6 games have been played, just like last year. I mean, the Bills were 4-2 after 6 games. They hung on to beat the Jets. And then for the first half of Week 7 against Tennessee, they looked rough, but ended up rolling second half of that game and then for most of the rest of the year. So that's when I'm going to need these guys, and I want to think they'll figure out ways to get through 6 games with, at worst, 3-3 or something, and then you can hit it. Although, I don't know that, having said that, these 2 guys make a huge difference. If I'm 3-3 without them, is it because I don't have those 2 players, or is it because, I'm losing on turnovers and I can't get open?
If I'm 3-3 without them, I probably got to lean into a perfect record to think about the 1 seed.
Well, that's right.
That's why, to me, I think every time you say it doesn't really matter early in the season, I'm going to balk at that. Because if I'm pursuing the 1 seed, every one of these games matters. I can't afford to lose more than 1 game a month. Even if I can do that. I mean, that's 4 losses probably, right? September, October, November. Yeah, I mean.
But you would take that.
Sure, 13-4 is an excellent record.
Think of how unlucky they were last year to not get the 1, to not even get to play for the 1 the last week.
Yeah.
Is that not the appropriate word for it? Even beating Kansas City, which no one else could do.
Yeah.
Not one team could do that until they gave up in Week 18 and then the Super Bowl. 13-4, that's what they were?
Yeah.
13-3 through 17 weeks, and they still couldn't touch the 1 because Kansas City was 15-1. Anyway.
Well, so that's what's in front of them. So I'm not willing to donate 6 weeks. As readily anyway. I think that could sting them. If they lose, a close game to someone who, they're favored by a touchdown or something, really, we'll see what else they do. I mean, they've got the ability to still sign guys, and of course the draft is coming up. But one way to look at what they're doing, at least on their defensive line, which most observers agreed needed attention, maybe even a lot of attention, is they can plug Bosa in for Miller, and then the rest of it's the same for 6 weeks. Which again, they got by. They had a great year with that personnel. Some of the depth pieces will be gone. Jordan Phillips, Austin Johnson, whatever. Maybe that means more of a big role for Dwayne Carter and certainly Bosa here and Daquan Jones is still here. I thought they were maybe going to move on from Daquan Jones. Haven't found a way to do that. So
think about this though.
They're kind of rolling the same team out there.
And how did that go last year?
Very well.
Without Milano. Either the first 6 games, and they lost bad to Baltimore, and then Allen went 9 for 30 against Houston, and they lost on a 60-yard field goal at the gun. So we're not really disagreeing here. Yes, it could happen, but nobody thought this season hinged on these 2 players who maybe a lot of us had never heard of before last week.
Well, that sounds different than 3-3. Right? The way you were talking initially here. They come through that fine. Just have your season from there. Well, you might be shoveling the top seed into a landfill at that if you come out of the first 6 weeks 3-3. I think you have a hard time getting the 1 seed then. Depending on what goes on around you. Anyway,
which is only worth so much. You want it, but it doesn't have to break you to not get it. What I was working toward is how. Friday, this news came down at 4 o'clock or something, or 4:30. We played Beane's comments at 5, and then we got calls. I remember one guy was just ripping into Beane, and he even mentioned Hamlin as a reason to do that. Nobody else wanted. He called it, what was his word? Unconscionable or something.
Yes, that was the word.
And wow, that's extreme. Here's what I think. I'm not sure I'm ready to say to what end, although I have done this with McDermott. I'll ramp up. This is a big year for Beane. This year, as we get near the draft, Elam is gone. Kincaid hasn't really hit. Coleman didn't hit. People are thinking about and talking about go to a bar. And when the subject of the Bills roster this time of year comes up, it's him. It's drafts. And fans are now getting to a point where they want certain guys, they know what they want from the draft.
And this suspension news is, I think, accelerating that.
So, I don't know to what end. If you have Allen, McDermott and Beane can ride the whole way to the end of Allen's career, maybe, even without a championship. I mean, conceivably. But I think right now that's he and recent drafts and the failures within those drafts is a topic of conversation. And then so would this be, as you said. And then, people will be split on Josh Palmer. Really don't know what to expect there yet, but some people like his skill set. Other people might think, this is never a guy who's been a top 2 wide receiver on his team. So this is the big move in the passing game. Over Cooper is even better than Cooper. It's debatable, all of that. And even when the draft happens, the draft might make sense. It'll make sense to the Bills. But then still, you have to wait until well into the season to really know what you've got.
Sure, if they draft a corner at 30, which is what they did when they were last in this position where they did not have an established number 2 corner on the team. They drafted Elam, and we all thought, that sounds great. Oh, he can play man, too. Maybe they'll mix up coverages, whatever. And then he couldn't get on the field. Thank God Benford was in that same draft, but yeah, you're right. I mean, however good it looks on paper, if it's the guy from Ole Miss that Trapasso was talking to us about last week, or it's another guy, it'll read really well. Okay, well that's a need. I like this guy's length. I like his 40 time. Oh yeah, SEC. Okay, get on the field and do it. And we will not know that. I mean, obviously, if he doesn't even win a job like Elam didn't do, then it's even more glaring. But yeah, we're going to have no idea until they get up and running whether or not they successfully filled that hole. And, all the other guys in the passing game that you just mentioned, all the other guys, the two other guys mainly, although Palmer will figure into that too, but Coleman, Kincaid, you're going to need something to go right. Somebody to really land and look like not just a guy that you can count on to play, 60% of your offensive snaps, but somebody that can really actually impact your offense.
Tough at pick 30 to, really feel great about the chances of that, even throughout the entire draft, picking so late. But yeah, I think right now that's on the minds of the fans is, all right, it's time for Beane to make a master stroke. Whatever that might be. Maybe that'll be Palmer. Maybe that'll be pick 30. Maybe they'll trade pick 30. It's not going to be for Myles Garrett or DK Metcalf anymore. But so that kind of sailed. I do think we'll be talking about this. I might have said the same thing last year with basically the same rules applied. Elam was not relevant, and Kincaid was not great. He was there as a rookie, but it wasn't like he was making a big difference in games. I might have said the same thing last year, but it's another year of it. Another year where you still have Coleman. You have the same question.
And that was coming off 73 catches for Kincaid. So, yeah, that's not to dispute that he impacted, because he didn't. He wasn't a big meter mover, but he produced. I would have said to you, oh, he didn't smash. It's okay. So he was a rookie, 73 catches. They'll get it together. That'll happen. And then it just did not happen. It went backwards.
Season high 52 yards, right? 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Injuries, but Sal coming up at 4 will analyze some of Friday's news with Sal, among other things. It is St. Patrick's Day, sunny but cold. Sabres and Bruins tonight, 6 o'clock pregame.